video, you are going to make b the subject of the formula. How do you do that? So when you consider this given equation, a is equal to bd divided by square root of b squared minus d. So the first thing you can do is to multiply by the denominator so that you obtain multiplied by square root of b squared minus d is equal to bd. Then you can square throughout so that you will have a squared is a squared, square root of b squared minus d, it will be b squared minus d. When you square b, it will be b squared. When you square d, it will be d squared. So here you square so that you remove this square root. Square of a is a squared. When you square and you take square root, you obtain that value. Then you remove the bracket so that we have a squared b squared minus a squared d is equal to b squared d squared. The objective is to make b the subject of the formula. So we can take the negative on the right hand side so that it becomes positive, which will be equal to b squared d squared plus a squared d. Now since we want to make b the subject, so we collect the terms with the b. So we shall have a squared b squared minus b squared d squared, which is equal to a squared d. Then from there we factorize b squared on the left hand side so that we shall be left with a squared minus d squared, which is equal to a squared d. Then from there we divide by what we don't need. We don't need a squared minus d squared. So dividing both sides by a squared minus d squared, we shall obtain a squared d divided by a squared minus d squared. Now to obtain b, you take square root both sides. So square root of b squared will be b. Then you will have plus or minus a square root of a squared multiplied by d divided by a squared minus d squared, which can be written as square root of a squared is a, square root of d divided by a square root of a squared minus b squared. So that is how you can make b the subject of the formula from the given equation. So before we wind up, we can do the recap. So the first step which you do, you multiply by the denominator. Our denominator is square root of b squared minus d, which we have done here. Then from there, you square everything. So a squared is a squared, square root of b squared minus d. When you square, it will be b squared minus d, which is equal to b squared d squared. Then from there, we remove the bracket. A squared times b squared is a squared b squared. A squared times d is a squared d. Then which is equal to b squared d squared. Then from there, you collect the terms with the negative on the right hand side so that it becomes positive, which is now a squared b squared, which is equal to b squared d squared plus a squared d. Then you collect the terms within b's. A squared b squared minus b squared d squared is equal to a squared d. Then we factor b on the left hand side, b squared on the left hand side, so that you can be left with a squared minus d squared, which is equal to a squared d. Then we divide it by a squared minus d squared both sides, so that you shall be left with b squared, which is equal to a squared d divided by b squared minus d squared. Then from there we take the square root both sides. The square root of a will be a, root of d divided by root of a squared minus b squared. So b is equal to plus or minus a square root of d divided by a squared minus b squared. Thanks so much for taking time to study with me. For more such learning, tune on to my YouTube channel so that you may learn together, whereby I have done a number of studies on this area of formula and variation. You can connect to my channel so that you don't miss a single video which I upload for us now and then. Bye bye for now. See you in the next video as we keep on learning.